Good afternoon and welcome to episode 7 of Tuesdays with Gurus. I'm Mark Graham.
And I'm Robert D. Hamilton.
And on this week's show, Rob is going to be mainly speaking today, and he's going to be talking about F&B, which is food and beverage. Do you want to go ahead and talk about that, Rob?
Yeah, sure. What I want to actually speak about is I was in Langkawi last week for about 4 days.
Very nice. How was it?
Beautiful.
Yeah?
Absolutely beautiful. My favourite place in the world.
Coming back to our point about getting regular breaks in as well.
Yeah, I was doing my writing there. I've been bitten actually. I've got some kind of small rash on my arm, but that's not quite relevant at the moment. It's not catching.
Hope
don't
it's not
worry.
contagious. Yeah.
No, it's not contagious. But while we were there, you know, we were going to, we were eating at different places, but mainly Chinese food. They do this lovely sizzling beef there.
Nice.
And it's really, really nice. But anyway, this one evening we decided that we wanted to go and have something different. So we thought we'd seen this Mexican restaurant from across the road. So we went over there our last evening there. And outside the restaurants, you know, they have a stand and a menu,
with the menu on
the table to sort of beckon you over. And so we went over and we looked. The first thing I looked at was this menu. Now, the menu was old, crumpled, creased, and dirty.
Right.
And that's supposed to be there to entice you in through the cowboy saloon doors that they had at the opening.
Yeah.
And so straight away that gave me a really bad impression, you know, and I looked inside, I could see over the doors, there was only 3 people in there.
Yeah, no surprise.
And all the other restaurants were busy. So I looked at my wife Lynn, and then out of nowhere this chap appears. And he asks us if we want to go inside. And this guy, his body odour, which was how we knew he was there.
Which is a big pet hate of mine, by the way.
It was really, really strong. It could have knocked, you know, if we were another 6 inches closer, it would have knocked a horse out. It was that strong. Yeah. And then I looked down his T-shirt. He had this T-shirt on that was filthy and it was all stained. It looked like it had, you know, last week's dinner spilt down it.
Nice.
His trousers were filthy. They had that shiny grease all the way down. He had flip-flops on and he had tide marks around his feet. Dirty tide marks. You know that when they're left in the bath? Yeah. Usually after kids have been in. Yeah. They don't rinse the bath out. Yeah. So...
by the way, Rob is actually a clean freak.
Yes,
well.
I am, yeah.
Yes. and
that immediately put me off. Yeah. And so we gave him a Mexican wave goodbye. Ba-dum-dum. And...
but this is something we've talked about before, isn't it?
Yeah, on our boot camps. On our boot camps. Boot camps? On our boot camps, we've spoken about this. We've had people in, haven't we, that have restaurants. Yeah. And I mean, I don't know about you, but that really does put me off, seeing that it's dirty and filthy, because you just automatically imagine, well, what's the kitchen like? Yeah, of course. You know, if the outside is like that, the people representing the food, they're dirty, then to me it says a lot about what the kitchen's like. Yeah, absolutely. That should be a fundamental of any kind of food and beverage place, you know. Yeah, you have to have it clean, tidy, smart-looking staff. It just should be a prerequisite, you know, for the success of the shop. And I do like to think that I know what I'm talking about. I have my own successful, very successful fast food restaurant in the UK. It was called Chips Ahoy. Get it? Chips Ahoy. Because it was fish and chips, but it was a restaurant as well, and takeaway. And my recipe for success, I'm full of the puns today, aren't I? My recipe for success was I followed a few basic principles that not a lot of shops actually do. Yeah. And the first one was the outside of my shop, including the pavement, was always clean. Yeah. So we would sweep up, we'd go and pick up any discarded wrappers, etc., etc. That was always clean. The windows, spotless. Inside on the window ledges, spotless. Yeah. The staff was spotless. You know, if they spilt anything down themselves, which they could, because at lunchtimes it'd be very quick.
Yeah, of course.
So people could bump into you or whatever. We always had spare clothing at the back so that they could go and change immediately, so that they always looked spotless. Another thing I did was I paid people the highest wages. So I took what was the average rate for the industry and what other local shops were paying, and we actually paid way over that amount. And what that did for me, it was that I could demand more from the staff, I attracted a better calibre of staff, and I saved on recruitment costs.
I think we discussed that quite a bit, that in Asia that's quite a big problem. That people seem to want to pay the lowest wages and
they think it's doing them a favour.
Yeah.
You know, so, and obviously the other thing I did, I cooked the best darn food around. People used to come from miles and past many other similar shops like mine just to eat my food.
Yeah.
You know, and the other thing we did, we gave outstanding customer service.
Yeah.
So that the customers left feeling like they'd had an experience, not just bought our food.
Absolutely.
They'd actually had an experience.
Well, to me, I find, you know, the way it works in your mind anyway is that if you've had good service, you enjoy the food more.
Yeah, and a lot of places think it's just about the food.
Yeah.
And it's not just about the food, it's about the service you give. Yeah. People, when they come to your shop or restaurant, whether it's a takeaway or eat-in, they want to be pampered.
Yeah, absolutely.
They literally want to be pampered and waited on. That's why they're going there, because they don't want to cook at home.
Yeah. And some restaurants or other kind of businesses like that as well might be busy for a while, but if they don't keep that service up, then that can change very fast. As we know in that industry, it can soon, you know, change very quick. People will start going somewhere else. So also people get complacent with that.
Yeah, that's right. And that's the other thing I noticed. I really felt in Langkawi that some, not all of them, some of the restaurants there were actually taking the custom for granted because there's so many tourists there. So if you actually went there now and opened up your own restaurant and did all those things that I just spoke about, you would mop up.
Yeah.
You really would, and it would make these other restaurants up their game, which is what they're not doing at the moment. Yeah. You know, there are some other great ones there as well, don't get me wrong, because I love Langkawi, and there was some lovely clean places that did wait on you, did give you a good service, even when they were really busy. So that was beautiful. I do recommend Langkawi. Yeah. Lovely place.
Okay, so the message really is then, if you invest a little bit of money and real effort in, you know, maybe paying for better quality staff.
Definitely.
Making sure they do the basics, so speak English, or, you know, wherever your market is, that kind of thing. Yeah. And definitely, you know, spend the effort on making it clean and tidy in particular, then, you know, you will more than see that money back in your business. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, definitely, because if the staff are getting paid more and are motivated, you know, yes, you can demand more, but the service they give out is a lot higher as well. I mean, that's what I also found.
Especially in Asia, you pay for the service charges included as well, and you're still not getting the service. That really peeves me when I have to pay a service charge and I've had no service whatsoever. You know, that I will not go back to places like that. Yeah. You know, every time if I've had that kind of bad service, but I'm paying for service, then, you know, definitely that would make me not go back, no matter how good the food was.
Oh, yeah, I mean, the last one I went in, the waiter actually said to me we'd had a terrible service, and he actually even asked me, what about my tip?
Really?
Yeah, and I said, here's a good tip. I said, in fact, I'll give you 2 good tips. Work hard and be nice to your mother.
And I think on that note, we'll leave it there. So, how are you going to end this week's show, Rob?
Well, have you ever watched Morecambe and Wise? I don't know if you have. It's an old sort of English comedy.
Yeah, very funny. I don't know if you saw it.
And Eric Morecambe used to do that. So it's goodbye.
Goodbye.